Good morning, welcome to day 32 of the Geriatric 1944 Coronavirus Diaries, and I thought today I would discuss some of the things that happened before I was even born. My father, who you see the photographs on the wall behind me, was captured as a prisoner of war. He was an American, but he joined the war right at the beginning because he lived in England, obviously, and he came over and went to school in England. So he joined up right at the start of the war in something called the American Field Services, which mainly provided medical assistance to people on the Allied side. And so he was right in the war from day one. He was captured and put in a prisoner of war camp, from which he escaped and made his way to Dunkirk when he then came back to England. Now, he actually won an OBE for his efforts. And when my mother died, actually, a few years ago, I had loads of messages from people who had served under my dad, who said he was the best officer and the finest man they ever knew, which was very moving, actually, and very touching. Anyway, I didn't know him well because he died when I was still very young, but he was quite a hero during the war. What was fascinating was Ian McEwan, one of my favourite writers, wrote a book called Atonement. And in it, there is a chapter about somebody escaping from a prisoner of war camp and making their way to Dunkirk. And it's amazing because my father wrote, although he never published, a description of the whole thing. And it's so accurate, the Ian McEwan one, to what my father actually experienced on that journey from the escape at the prisoner of war camp to the coast. Stunning, extraordinary. Really, I found it quite moving. It's in the film as well, the Atonement film. Anyway, so my dad did survive the war, obviously, and then gave birth, or rather my mother, I think. I'm not quite sure which of them, but one of them gave birth to me in December 1944. Do you like my sense of humour, or do you find it irritating and puerile? Anyway, meanwhile, before we get on to some music, and by the way, I have to tell you, this is the greatest collection of music ever made, in my opinion. It's got 80 different tracks on it from all our UK releases, although it slightly cheats because it does include other tracks that are connected with me in some way or another. But I do think it's great, and it's really well worth getting hold of. I think you can't buy the CDs anymore. I think we printed 500 of them up and as a box set, and I think they went in 2 days, the whole lot. But you can still download or listen to it on places like Apple Music and Spotify and all those others. And believe me, there's some wonderful tracks in there. Dame Edna Everage doing her Disco Matilda is fantastic. The actress Noel Gordon, who's a lovely lady, who was in Crossroads doing To My Daughter, which is just a classic of kitsch. Some terrific tracks, including several of mine, and we'll get to that later. But I wanted to tell you another story about birds, because shortly after I came out of the Nick back in 2005, my little house needed some repairs done to it because I'd been locked away for 3.5 years. And even though people had been coming to my house every day to check that everything worked all right and to make sure there weren't any leaks and all that, still things had sort of deteriorated. And the garage roof, which actually is a sort of wonderful place that I can go out, I put a photo on here the other day and sit out on it. In fact, I'm going to go out and sunbathe later today on there. Yes, government, I'll be sunbathing. Screw you. But anyway, that's really nice. But there is another balcony even higher up because I've got 3 floors here. And the builders who were mending the garage roof came to me and said, look, we're a little worried because that there is a bird's nest in the balcony above. Do you want us to remove it and destroy it? It's got eggs in it and everything. Or would you like us to leave it alone? I said, no, leave it alone, definitely. I don't want the little birds to be destroyed. So they left it alone. And a little while later, the eggs are all hatched. And I think they were chaffinches. They were a little tiny bird. And the little baby birds, of course, come out with no feathers, naked, with all a little skin. Always rather make me feel a bit ugh. But anyway, they discovered very quickly, within hours of being born, that there was a brilliant game they could play. And the game was called Slide Down the Pipe, because there are pipes on the outside, if ever it rains or whatever, that drains the water down into a sort of grating at the bottom. Well, the little birds discovered that one by one they could hop from their nest into this pipe, slide all the way down to the first balcony, then jump into another pipe and slide all the way down to the bottom onto the grating, where this nice man who owned the house would see them, pick them up and cup them in his hand, carry them up the stairs and put them back in their nest. And then the next one could do the same. Well, they did this about 20 times, driving me mad, apart from anything else, climbing the bloody stairs every time to put them back in. So I finally decided enough was enough, and I put a piece of cardboard over the top pipe so they couldn't slide in anymore. And that stopped them. While this was going on, the two parents, Mummy and Daddy Chuffinch, were getting really annoyed with the birds and kept saying to them, "Will you stop doing this? This man is going mad." But even so, they kept doing it. The two Daddy and Mummy bird were very, very relieved when they stopped. Cut to a few months later, I'm lying in my bed and perched on the windowsill, on the top window part of one of my windows right next to the bed. There's this bird, and he's tapping on the glass. Tap, 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 tap. I'm reading the newspaper, and what's that? And I look, and there it is, tap, tap, tap. And I turned round and look, and there's this bird tapping on the window. I smiled and waved, and he flew away, and that was the last I saw of him. I thought, I'm sure that's one of the baby birds that came back to say, "Okay, you think I'm mad? You've always thought I'm mad anyway." And I am a bit mad, but I just thought it was a rather lovely story. And I wanted to finish off because I've had loads and loads of messages of not just one, but both sides of my 1965 hit, Everyone's Gone to the Moon. The other side is called Summer's Coming. As I mentioned before on here when I talked about Marlene Dietrich, both sides sold very well, and both sides are being thought massively as being sort of predicting what's been going on in the world. I played Summer's Coming, but I think now is perhaps the time for you to have another listen to Everyone's Gone to the Moon. It sold 9 million copies back in 1965, but if you listen to the lyrics, it really did predict a lot of what's going on in 2020. So, ladies and gentlemen, for you, Jonathan King and Everyone's Gone to the Moon.
Streets full of people, all alone. Roads full of houses, never home. Church full of singing, out of tune. Everyone's gone to the moon. Eyes full of sorrow, never wet. Hands full of money, all in debt. Sun coming out in the middle of June. Everyone's gone to the moon. Long time ago, life has begun. Everyone went to the sun. Hearts full of motors, painted green. Mouths full of chocolate, covered cream. Arms that can only lift a spoon. Everyone's gone to the moon. Everyone's gone to the moon. Everyone's gone to the moon.